Special edition of WiseKracks with guest Jay Cohen, who 30 years ago left the Pacific Options Exchange in San Francisco and moved to Antigua, founded World Sports Exchange, an online betting exchange and sportsbook. He was one of the pioneers of the industry, and the government wanted him so bad, they put him in jail for it. Jay hasn't talked to anyone publicly about this in decades. He's promoting his new fantastic book, Odds Man Out, and today we have him on WiseKracks.
I'm Jim Lampley. I've looked through the front window of American sports for 50 years. Countless title fights, 14 Olympics, the biggest moments in American sports. But one of the most remarkable stories I ever encountered didn't happen in an arena. Jay Cohen and Steve Schillinger were traders from the Pacific Stock Exchange. Schillinger, a gifted, almost obsessive oddsmaker. Cohen, a hard-charging entrepreneur. Along with their young runner Hayden Ware, they built World Sports Exchange, an offshore operation in Antigua that was not only legal, it was revolutionary. Before DraftKings, before Kalshi, before any of it, they introduced live in-game wagering. The industry now takes it for granted, but leagues, lobbyists, and legislators moved to shut them down, cloaking themselves in integrity, insisting that gambling was a threat to the soul of American sport. Cohen came back to the United States to stand trial. Represented by the legendary Benjamin Braffman, he fought and lost. Schillinger and Ware stayed on the island, entrepreneurs trapped in paradise. Today, those same leagues are making hundreds of millions from sportsbook partnerships. Their logos are plastered across every betting app in America. The moral high ground didn't disappear, it was sold. I went to Antigua. I reported this story for HBO's Real Sports in 1999. I thought I knew the whole story, but Cohen's new book reveals how justice can be bent to serve those with money, power, and influence. I couldn't put it down. Odds Man Out, the untold story of how professional sports crushed the pioneers of online betting, by Jay Cohen.
Hey guys, a special episode of WiseKracks. I haven't seen him in 24 years in person. Haven't seen him even haven't talked to him in 24 years. I can't believe it's been that long. So, Jay Cohen, founder of one of the founders of World Sports Exchange, wrote a new book. I've gotten a lot of phone calls and emails and even texts saying, "Hey, did you read this new book?" This is about 2 months ago. And I said, no. And then I got a second one and a third one. These guys don't even know each other, and said, this is fantastic. So I said, oh, good. I'd like to maybe have him on or talk to him. I haven't talked to him in years, but he does know me and we know each other. Jay, thank you for doing this. And this is one of your first shows you're doing. Am I right?
It's one of the first three. Yeah.
Good.
Thank you
Good
for
deal.
having me. Thank you for covering the story, and thank you for helping me promote the book, because books need readers.
Yeah. But you look exactly the same as you did last time I seen you. That's insane. So it's good that you're keeping yourself going there. You know, that's great.
Well, there was an expression in prison that they would say, prison preserves people. I don't know.
Prison preserved you. You know, that's one of the questions I had for you. So what is the name of the book again, just for the listeners and the viewers?
The book is called Odds Man Out, and I'm the author, and the foreword was written by my trial attorney, Ben Braffman.
Oh, a very, very big name attorney, for sure. So I'll start out at the beginning. I have like 20, so I don't know if I can get all these questions in, but these are ones that I wrote up, and one of my partners wrote this up. So let's start out. So Jay, you were a nuclear engineer grad from Berkeley, and then trading options, I believe, in San Fran. And how did a guy like you end up running the world's one of the first guys to run a world's online sports book? How did that happen?
Well, I was an options market maker for calls and puts on equity options. And the truth is, when you're buying and selling calls and puts, you're basically writing and you're buying and selling bets on stocks.
Right.
So it's really the same business. I was the house, and Steve Schillinger, who started World Sports Exchange with me, he was older than me. He was on the trading floor. And he was always an incredible odds maker, and he was always doing all these side bets on the side. And when the O.J. Simpson trial started, he started a marketplace for the trial. And he had three products: guilty, not guilty, and other. And he would make markets in all three contracts every day during the trial, during the day. And people, it went as far as New York. The Morgan Stanley broker would run into Steve and say, "I need a quote for Harry on the desk in New York. Where can I buy 10 not guilty, sell 10 guilty?" That type of stuff. It was that big. And it was very popular. I didn't do it with him, but I was right next to him the whole time. And then when that died down after the trial ended, he started doing it on ordinary traditional sports. But he was also doing MVP bets and season-long bets on who will be the baseball MVP, who will win the baseball world championship, et cetera. And it seemed very popular. So I said to him, I said, we should put this on the internet. We should make this a business because this is a revolutionary way to bet, because you can trade in and out of your bet. Unlike Vegas, where you take something at 10 to 1, and if the odds improve to 3 to 1, you can't get out. The only way you can get out is to bet the rest of the field. And Steve's method, you could sell the bet back. So that's what we did. He said, fine, go ahead and you do all the work, and I'll come make the odds. You figure out how to set it up, and I'll come with.
Was Steve also you were from like Queens, New York as a kid, right? Was Steve also from New York or no?
Steve's Chicago.
Chicago. Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you guys meet? Do you guys meet in the business, in the trading business?
In the trading pit. We used to, Steve was a floater. I stayed in one pit, and it was generally a quiet pit, but Steve would move around to whatever's busy. He would just trade the most active issues because he was fast. That's where he made his money. And we had a stock get busy, so he kind of came over to our pit. We used to call people that came over to your pit only when it was busy boat people.
Okay.
We had all these dead issues. All of a sudden, something got very active. Some news on the stock, and then we'd say the boats have landed. Here's the boat people. But Steve, he took a liking to our pit, and he kind of made it his kind of pseudo home. He would still move around when things got busy elsewhere, but he and I started having lunch together every day at 10:30. That's how we became friends.
Cool.
It's very
I got you.
And
then how'd you make that move to Antigua? Obviously, you couldn't do this to, of course, enough trading for California. So why the servers mattered so much? Why Antigua?
Well, I researched multiple jurisdictions and where can we do this legally. We talked to lawyers, obviously, and of all the places I called around, I had this little book about offshore jurisdictions. It wasn't related to gaming; it was more related to banking, but it had a lot of phone numbers in there. It had government phone numbers for every place in the world you can think of. So I called them all, and including Costa Rica. And Costa Rica, they said, "Oh, you just work it out with the local government, with the local mayor." I said, I'm not looking for that.
Right.
Stumbled upon Antigua. Antigua had this structured regulation. They'd been working with the State Department, and it was actually a highly regulated environment, which is what I preferred. I wasn't looking to hide. I was looking to be open, to be transparent.
Yeah, no, that's great. And let me ask you about this came from a couple different people, this question. When I asked questions this morning on Twitter. A bankroll. So what did you actually start out with, a starting bankroll? What did you think you needed? You sold shares. This person said through a real private placement, you sold some shares. And I think something to do with a law firm I was reading. How much did it take to really get off the ground now
we raised,
for this?
We raised about 800,000.
Okay.
And a lot of that went to development, to building coding and developing and hardware and moving and things were expensive back then. When I got to Antigua and I met with the head of cable and wireless, I said, how much is a T1 line? I don't know if T1
Sure.
used to be the thing
Of
to have.
course. Yep.
And at the time he said, I think he told me like $19,000 a month. I said, well, you're crazy. He said, well, I just laid all this cable to Florida. I want to get my money back. I said, you want to get it back in a year? So, I mean, that's a lot of things were more expensive than
Yes.
had we just been in Florida. Obviously.
Sure.
But, the bankroll wasn't really an issue in the early days, certainly. It wasn't like we had that much business. And if you read the book, there's a day I talk about in the book where early on where Steve and I are just sitting there all day long next to each other, staring at the screen. The phone didn't ring once all day, and we're did we really make the right movie?
Yeah, that was the next question. My Johnny Detroit from WagerTalk asked, "What did year one look like?" So, were you profitable out of the gate, or did it take time? Sounds like it took some time.
I would say, well, once, because we got down there and everyone laughed at us for going down there and opening in January. They said, oh, any real bookie knows to open at football season. And once football season did come, things did pick up quite a bit. And I'm sure by the end of football season, we were probably even. But that first spring down there was kind of lonely.
Yeah, no, you guys have political markets. You said that you don't want to be on the side of a guy who knows something that you don't. How did you and Steve handle that and the sharp bettors when you were the house on every trade?
Yeah, well, of course, Steve. I mean, that was Steve's goal, but he hated. I would say, let's put up the political races, let's put up the stock market, let's put up. And Steve hated all that because he felt, there are people who know much more about it than him, and he doesn't want to be on the other side of that. So he was okay with 10, 50, $100 bets, but if someone came in and wanted to bet 5 or 10 dimes on a bet like that, he wanted no part of that. And I agree with that assessment. As far as I can tell, and I don't follow these new companies that closely today, but they're doing mainly player to player, so they don't care. They match them up.
Right. They're not seeding the market.
Yeah, they're not the contra to every trade, so they don't care. But we cared, and we had to adjust accordingly. And in the sports business, it's pretty. Booking to sharps is a whole skill set you develop in the sports game, and you limit them, you try to move off them, all that sort of stuff. Then they play games on you, then you play games back. But in like I said, in the political markets, there was, again, it was all $50, $20, and then if someone came in heavy, you just did not want to be part of it. So
I remember from the forum. I remember from the forum days. I think he was at our meetup when we all met together at the Palm Steakhouse there in Vegas. I think from our meetup there was a guy named Machiavelli, Brandon, and he said I remember him being very good on your website. Do you remember him? Do you remember him betting there or no? Not really.
Some of it's all a blur, I have to be honest.
Yeah, sure, no. And speaking of which, too, I made a lot of money in bonuses back in the 90s, early 2000s, very early. You guys used to have some sign-up bonuses and kind of sign-up deals, too. Did you have a lot of scammers and fraud and chargeback, bonus abuse, people trying to, did you have a lot of that or not really?
I don't think we had a lot of it. I mean,
that's good.
I read this, I read this stupid book sometime at some point in my career. It said, you shouldn't be offering better deals to your new customers than your old customers.
Interesting.
Treat your old customers well. They're your customers. So that's why every fall we did whatever we offered to everyone. Not just to new customers. When we did a promotional bonus, we tried to do it for everyone. So you didn't single out, hey, why punish this guy because he's been here here.
Yeah.
So we did that. I know when I came back to Antigua in '06, when I walked out the door in '97, there were 4 of us. And I came back, there's over 100, and Hayden's got a 15. He's running a 15-person fraud department.
Wow.
And all they're doing, the fraud department, all they're doing is running. And I don't know what kind of tools they had access to all kinds of fancy tools. I don't know if they were legal or illegal, but they were running all kinds of background checks on everyone.
Sure.
And Hayden told me one time someone came in, someone called them, got up to him and said, "Hey, they won't take my deposit." And Hayden called the fraud department and said, "What's wrong with this guy? Why are you blocking it?" And they said, "Oh, he declared bankruptcy 6 years ago." So
Well,
that's
why they didn't want to do it. You might as well close the shop if you have to worry about people that declare bankruptcy.
I'm just saying they were very
meticulous.
They were aggressive, but
yeah. You guys launched the live in-game betting. I think it was like around 1997. The cash out, next step back, next score markets.
Yeah.
When you watch a modern broadcast today with the live odds, what goes through your head? Like knowing you guys did that 30 years ago.
Well, it hurts, I mean, first of all, no one even tried to do it for at least 5 years. And the way I understand it, to this day, no one does it as well as we did it.
Amazing.
Everyone describes it. People I talked to who've tried it today say it's very clunky. It's not clear. Ours was idiot proof, and you bought, you sold. That was January '97. And then Steve said, "I'm going to throw up at bats. He's going to strike out, single, double, triple. Who's going to score next?" He's running all this at once. And today they're all using databases and everything. This was all Steve.
That's unbelievable. Wow.
And he would make markets till the last second. And so, do I get honestly, outside of writing this book, I've gone out of my way to avoid following everything.
Sure.
There have been several times I've applied for jobs in Europe. There was one that specifically said, manage a team of live traders, sports traders, and I get the rejection email, sorry, we've gone with someone with more experience. And I'm like,
more experience.
Did you dig up Steve? I mean, I always say it's like Tesla not getting a job at the electric company. And they say, and then what's even more insulting is I'll look up, sometimes the HR person will put their name on it, and I'll run a search on the HR person. And, before this job, she was a cashier at the supermarket.
Right. No, it's trust me, it's the same thing here in the States also. So you guys had interesting golf markets, prices moving on every hole, Tiger Woods opening way off the rest of the field. Why did the golf work so well? That was a big thing with WSEX.
Well, in part, it was number one, because it was the Tiger era. He always started out at around $15 or $20, and everyone else was $2 or $1, and there might be a couple of guys $5 or $6, and there were so many of them. And again, Steve, he's watching on TV for 4 days straight. He's watching every hole. Someone bogeys, someone birdies, and the prices would shift, $5 or $10 just like that. So you bought someone for $2, you sold them for $6, you're out, you're done, and you tripled your money, and that's great, And that's why it was exciting. It was fun. But golf really lent itself to that with Tiger, because either Tiger would be on fire and then he would just kind of run up, or he'd fall apart, and then all the different field players would start coming up, and it was just wild. I mean, I remember, and then at the end of golf, when you had some of these 3 or 4 way ties, and then I remember there was some big British Open where the guy just fell apart at the end. He was a clear favorite. He just went to pieces. So things like that. We had a guy when we first started the live betting. I think we might have even been a test game, and he was in the futures business, commodities, and he made some kind of software for futures trading. So he was a pretty seasoned futures trading, but he was also a big gambler. And he tried our live game betting on what was a college game or whatever when we first started. And he called us after the game and he said, that was the most fun I ever had. You know?
Wow.
So,
Yeah. So, and also you guys you could trade in and out, bet mid game. Like bettors today think that cash outs or something. I was driving down to Veasan today, down to my show at Veasan today. There's a big sign William Hill has. Oh, you can do cash outs, and there we were showing the cash out option. Like this is nothing new. You guys were doing this. How far ahead of the industry were you guys? 28 years ahead of the
yeah,
industry.
yeah,
25,
like
at least 20. Yeah.
they call it cash out. I understand it's like it's got some hidden charges. It's got
Yes.
we were just straight, markets
Yeah.
50 bid at 52, sell it, sell it at 50. That's it. You have to think about cashing out. We didn't call it cash out. Buy more, sell extra, whatever,
Right.
short it, who cares? I mean, that's what we
Yeah,
did.
the Kalshi, poly market, the election betting and prediction markets. You see is any of it actually new? No, this was stuff you were doing this is the 90s. Am I correct by saying it? You guys
Absolutely.
were that market before this came legal to the states here. So
Yeah.
that
Bush
must, yeah.
Gore, Bush Kerry. Yeah, they were making markets on that back then. Sure.
So Janet Reno's Department of Justice came after you under the Wire Act. And when did you start realizing the government was actually coming after you here in the States? Now you were living in Antigua, is that correct?
Yes.
And now you actually could have stayed there in Antigua, out in paradise, I guess, and you actually flew back to the States to fight it. What years were this happening? And your partners obviously stayed in Antigua.
Well, we were charged in March of '98. That's when I found out about the day I was charged. In the SI article, it was a cover story in SI, came out in January. And in that very article, the spokesperson named John Russell for the DOJ Criminal Division in Washington said, it's out of our jurisdiction. And then 3 months later, I'm charged by the Southern District of New York.
Right.
And the whole Janet Reno thing, I don't know why she was involved in it at all, but they obviously put some talking points in front of her. But the whole prosecution was really out of the Southern District. And that's, if you read the book, the whole case came about because the lawyers for the sports leagues went to their cronies at the Southern District of New York prosecutor's office and said, you got to go after these guys. That's how the case started.
Oh,
and
okay.
we document that. That's on our website. The old WSEX.com is still up there. We put it back up.
Oh, wow.
And you can see the documentation, all the correspondence between the law firm representing NFL, NBA, baseball, and hockey and the Southern District. The letters, we were able to subpoena that. The letters that went back and forth, look at Cohen, look what he's doing now. And they're very chummy. They're not to whom it may concern. It's Dear Tom, look at what Cohen's doing now.
Yep.
So the original prosecutor on my case was named Tom Rubin. And before Tom Rubin was an assistant U.S. attorney, he worked for this law firm that represented the sports leagues. And the point person at that law firm, named Lauren Reisner, before he worked for that law firm, he worked in the prosecutor's office. And we found like 25 people move back and forth. And we found that law firm in particular even had a rule. They're big on their seniority. So if you're working at this New York law firm, if you went to work for the Southern District for 2 or 3 years and then came back, you still got credit towards your seniority for those years there. There's a total revolving door, chummy. Yeah, it was. They brought the case.
Right.
Southern District wasn't looking for me. The law firm was looking for me, and they sicked the ball. That's how the case started. That's it.
And
they
your
didn't
whole
like the Wall Street Journal article. They didn't like seeing us in the Journal.
Yes. Your whole defense was that the bet happens where the server is. The feds called that absurd. Then used your exact argument in Florida for the Seminoles. I mean, how did that sit with you?
Well,
amazing.
Not only did they use that exact argument today, they were using that argument for capital OTB at the time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And the judge, at the time of my trial, the prosecutor denied that. and the judge took him at his word. Then we found proof of that, and in my habeas petition, which was filed while I was locked up, we raised that, because you can raise things you find after, you can't raise, you have to raise in a habeas. And we raised that, and the judge, Ben and my other lawyer, Melinda, were there, and I wasn't there. And they said that Grisey, the judge, he understood it finally. And he ruled in the habeas petition that they lied at trial, and that they made an error, what's called a trial error, which should be in a new trial. But then the judge said, but in my opinion, it was harmless error. There's reversible error and harmless error.
Oh.
And the judge declared that it wouldn't have made a difference.
Wow. And you became the first American convicted of internet bookmaking. What was it like hearing guilty on all 8 accounts? It had to be like, oh God, how can this be?
Well, it was so, the way the judge was directing the verdict. If you read the transcript, if you read the jury instructions, I have one doctor friend in New York, and he only came to the day the judge was reading the jury instructions. He couldn't believe it. I mean, the judge told the jury my testimony. Defendants rarely take the stand, right?
Sure.
The judge told the jury my testimony was not relevant.
Wow.
I mean,
you were up against it from the start.
After the trial, we were walking on the street, and one of the jurors came up to me, and she said to me, "We wanted to acquit you, but the judge gave us no choice."
Wow.
And then recently with the book, I don't think it's in the book, but we tracked down the jury foreman. We were able to find them, and he corroborated that woman was the holdout. She had a hard time with the whole thing, and she was holding back. And the jury foreman said, "Hey, we like the guy, but the way the judge framed this thing, we had no choice."
Wow.
That was 6 months ago. We heard that, or whenever it was.
Wow. And you wound up doing 18 months. Some of it here in North Las Vegas. Is that right?
Yeah.
Walking distance from the Vegas books, doing it legally. What you went to prison for. What was going through your head in there? Can you even believe what was happening to you? I mean,
it was just, you could see the lights of the Strip at night. I mean,
unbelievable. Well, the booking the same action that you were in jail for from another country. And even Antigua, people don't know this part too. Antigua took your case to the WTO, right? And they won. You won in 2005. And like I said, the U.S. never complied, and no one knows that story. Why? Why isn't that not out there?
Well, it's highly technical. I mean, it made a couple of articles in the wire services. And there were these trade magazines, like for international trade, that covered the David versus Goliath story there. But here was part of the problem. So we actually won the first case. It was the first day I got out. I was in the halfway house, and that's the day we won the first case. And that was before the appeal. And so that one we won straight up, really across the board. And of course, the U.S. appealed, and 2 years later, the appellate decision, but this decision was like 300 pages. The U.S. upheld all the Antigua complaints relating to the federal charges, including 1084. They said that the Wire Act was not compliant with the U.S. commitment for the treaty, and a bunch of other gambling laws, federal, were not compliant. But they dismissed, we had listed thousands of state laws, okay? And the WTO appellate panel set those aside. They didn't say they're no good at all. They just said you didn't bring enough evidence for those. So had we wanted to spend another several $1 million
Sure.
Building up each state law, that would have been, we could have done that. But so the way they dismissed it was like, you just didn't show your case. So then anyway, after that, I one of the wire services, I can't remember if it was AP or UPI or whoever it was, or Reuters, and they put an article. Both sides claim victory in WTO appeal. That's what both, we won the
Right.
meat of the case.
Right.
Both sides claim victory. So I called the reporter who was on the case.
Right.
And she said, well, the U.S. put out a press release claiming victory. I said, well, did you read the opinion? And she said, no. I said, well,
Wow.
Both sides claim victory.
That's amazing. Amazing. Going back to that, though, Jay, going back to my first question, I skipped over. How was your time? Listen, a time is always going to be bad, but you weren't in with like the hardened criminals, right? Was it okay for you there, the 18 months away? Or
Nellis was fine. It was boring. That's
sure.
Say what's it like? It's boring. That's what it is. But everything's about finding a routine. And there were guys there. It's not like there were old guys there who romanticized about the old days when it really was club fed.
Right.
Before they brought in all the drug guys. It's not like it used to be. So that's
sure.
But they said in the old days the military shared the chow hall, and they would even leave their M16s against the door.
Right.
And they had a lot more leeway.
Sure. Sure.
But of course, by the time I got there, it was more strict, more controlled. It was fine. It wasn't hard time by any means. I managed to work my way into a job. You have to have a job. So I got a job in the GED department teaching algebra and geometry to gang guys who never finished high school. So that was nice. They appreciated me.
Yeah. You compare yourself to Kurt Flood. I read the guy who took on baseball, changed the game, ended up a footnote while everyone else cashed in. Is that how you see your place with this?
Well, that's why as of now, I keep saying I'm going to end up a footnote, right?
Sure.
I'm sure. They're using my first they drive me out of business, and now they're making millions off of my model.
Sure.
And they're not even doing it as well. That's the sad thing. But
that's unbelievable. 30 years later, not even doing it as well. And you also, we were off air in the beginning. I said, wait, Jay, don't say nothing else. Let's tell the people that are watching. So you're living abroad, and like even I read that you can't even come see your dad.
Yeah, my dad's 92. I gave up my citizenship in 2012. I gave up my U.S. citizenship, and in what year? Probably around 2020, not till 2023 or 20. I applied for a visitor visa to go to the U.S. And I had read up all their rules, and they have this whole thing. You can't come at all if you committed a crime of moral turpitude. Now, there's actually a State Department Foreign Affairs manual that defines crimes of moral turpitude for visa issuance purposes. And in that manual, there's a section, I can send it to you, where it says the following crimes are crimes of moral turpitude. And of course, it's violent crimes, bad stuff, right? All the bad stuff you can think of. And then there's actually a section that says specifically, the following crimes are not crimes of moral turpitude. And it says gambling. So I applied for a visa.
They
made me get criminal records. It took me over a year to get criminal records from every place I ever lived, which I did. I turned them all into them. And when they finally got everything, they said, we're denying you because you committed a crime of moral turpitude. And there's no one to talk to. It's like talking to a wall. So we finally reached someone in Washington, and they said, oh, this is over a year old, apply again. I applied again. I go back to the embassy, guy sitting on the other side of the glass. I have all the criminal records with me this time. And all he does is look at the old denial, and then he denied me right there on the spot.
Oh,
crime of moral
oh,
turpitude. And it's like you don't know who to. There's no
oh,
there's no there's no one to
that's a
talk to.
shame. You can't even
So
see your 92-year-old dad. That's
I mean, it's not. It, we always follow the rule. These are your rules. It's in your book. I don't know. Either I can't read, either I have a problem with reading comprehension, or they do, because it's pretty clear from my reading comprehension of their manual, this
sure.
should be not a crime of moral turpitude. I think there's something, and if people have said this, but like when I tell them I was convicted under the Wire Act, which is
Right.
using the wires to transmit gambling information, for some reason, whenever people hear wire, they immediately go to wire fraud.
Right.
And
Then I'm thinking it was from 1961, right there. Yeah.
I'm wondering if these people even read my documents and just saw
Right.
Wire Act.
Wow. Wow. How about the PayPal story? So tell people about the PayPal. They came to you saying, we're going to fight with you. And then, they do this massive gambling volume. And then they pull the plug. eBay pulled the plug, I guess. Something like, what happened there?
Well, I was in Miami speaking at a gaming conference in Miami. I was on bail. It was before I went away. And this guy comes up to me. I wish I had his card still. He was some executive senior vice president of PayPal. He says, I just want to let you know, we're ready to get into the game. We're with you. We're going to fight with you. We believe in what you're doing. Thank you. And we're going to fight with you. And, we're going to get into the gaming business. I said, well, that's great. Thank you. Great to hear, And I mean, I wasn't involved in the business back then. And apparently they did get involved. And according to Hayden, they did massive volume, not just with us, but with the whole industry. And that pumped up their numbers. And with those numbers, they were able to look very attractive to eBay when they sold out to eBay. And the day or two after they sold to eBay, someone wrote an article and said, does eBay realize how much of their money comes from gaming revenue?
Right.
And within a
Right.
week, eBay announced that PayPal would be withdrawing from the U.S. market. So,
Gotcha. If you can go back to that guy in 1996 on the trading floor, about to move to Antigua, would you tell him to do it all again or over again, or would you refrain from that?
well, obviously, there's a couple of tiny little things I would have done differently, but I would have done it again, because at the time I said to myself, I had a pretty good career going. I was making a lot of money.
Sure.
I was in my 20s. I was single. I was making very good money. And I said to myself, this is going to be big one day. And I don't want to be the guy sitting there that says, I was going to do that. I thought of that. I was going to do that. No, I said, I'm going to do it. That's the thing. And, I set about doing it, legally. And that was my goal. I'll tell you one stupid thing that we didn't raise at the trial. And you talk about different things that you wish you'd said something.
Right.
In the U.S. code under which I was convicted, there's a definition of a gambling business, and it says 5 or more people. And I think back, I said, when I left, there were only 4 of us.
Yeah.
Now I'm sure had I raised that, then they would have, played the tapes of after I left, more different voices on the phones and say, aha, I see they're bigger now, or try to include the people who, the advertising people made it a bigger business or something. But it was kind of the defense I always wish I had raised at the last second.
Yeah.
Excuse me, how many people were in that office?
So did the business actually fold into? I see some contradicting statements here. the WSEX fold around 2013. Is that the approximate year that you actually and some customers said they were never paid out. So what
Yeah.
actually happened in those final days, Jay?
Well, I wasn't there. Okay.
Okay.
I'm clear that I mean, I
What year
left
did
the
you leave?
island. I left the island in 2009. Or
Okay.
before that, the last time I was on the island was 2009. In 2009, I was visiting, and that's when my IT guy said, "Hey, there's this new thing called Bitcoin. We should check it out." I was like,
Wow.
It's crazy."
Yeah.
And of course, you know how that ended. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a combination of lay downs. I mean, banks confiscating money, being forced to deal with crooked credit card processors that never paid them. Uh, and then I think, and not being able to develop new customers because only it was like there was a point where only like 10% of the deposits were going through. And even some of those were through crooked credit card processors. And then they ended up stealing all that money. That's how it used to go. I mean, not let's say 100%, but
Right.
and then word got out, and then it's a
Run on the bank.
it's a spiral. Yeah, I mean it's but if WSEX had all the money that people laid down on them, they would have paid everyone and had plenty of money left over. There were
So we heard rumors. There's rumors that Madoff was involved, with your partners losing money. That's all BS.
That's all
Okay.
BS. But whatever
Okay.
whatever money was not paid, WSEX was not paid 2 to 3 times as much from crooked processors, banks, and there was no recourse. Oh, sorry, the government took it.
Right.
From a bank or whatever. And then again, the dirty processors. I mean, you couldn't run to the cops. You couldn't do anything. So
Yeah.
a lot of it was that, and
But a lot of the other sports books
the
put up
business
with
slowed
that.
down. What's
Right.
that?
A lot of the other sports books, I'm sure, also had that. The Bet Chris's of the world, and whatever. I don't know who was back there, Bodog or whoever they were back in the day. But a lot of them folded too, though. I know myself, Sports Market. I can go on and on. There's Antigua. I think it was Eddie Hadid. I think the guy's name was, and there, and then I can go on and on. There was multiple places that folded and didn't pay people. But that is some of the reasons, I guess, too. I never realized how bad the crooked processors of credit cards were and stuff. I didn't know that payment solutions was that much of a hurdle back then.
They were charging more and more, and then it was even worse when they took all 100%. So then, but it was it would go like, what was I going to say? They would. The other thing is, some of our competitors, I mean, we were 100% post up, always. We never had agents doing
Or
pay and
credit.
collect. Yeah, the guys with the credit business and pay and collect guys on the out there, they could function. We couldn't. And the other thing, we were in also in a hyper growth period. We had Matchbook, we were building Matchbook, we were building the poker, the casino. We were trying to be a super casino. And also, I mean, another mistake when the UIGEA passed, and then when it came into effect, we were always good to our people. We never said, you know what, our business is down, we're going to lay off half the people. No, we kept it going. They said, no, we're going to, we want to say we're fighting, we're here. We never cut salaries or things like that. I mean, so that's, eventually we offered some kind of attrition packages a lot of people took, but we were always super kind to our employees down there, and never, I always say I'm not a good businessman at that stuff. I'm not good at looking at people and saying, oh, 30% of you have to go tomorrow and that's it. Sorry, we're down. Our business is down 30%, so 30% of you have to go. Goodbye. I don't have that in me, or at least I didn't.
Yeah, yeah. That business of credit in the States and meeting someone on the street, that is virtually over. That there's, unless you're dealing with a local guy or something, but there's the big books that used to have people here in the States and agents and stuff. That virtually, I don't even though I live in Vegas, a gambling state, and I just don't hear of that like I used to back in the day. But I forgot about Matchbook. That's right. You actually ran Matchbook, right? So what made you go over to the peer-to-peer betting exchange from you guys were the house. Now you're letting people go face to face. How did you get involved with that? I forgot about that.
Well, that was Hayden. He actually did that while I was away.
Oh, okay.
And I think somehow originally they went to Ireland and they were going to kind of target the European market, and somehow it turned into Matchbook. And Steve's attitude was, let all the wise guys, send them over there, kill each other, let them kill each other. And honestly, probably got caught on the wrong side of that too much in both in development cost and I think there was a lot of seeding of the markets, saying, well, we gotta get it going, and here they are taking on the best players in the world. So that was really run independently at the time, but they did. It was a nice name and a nice product in the end, which we sold. And then and once UIGEA passed, that was the other thing. Lost a lot of customers just when the thing passed, and all the headlines were, Congress bans internet gambling. And like half the people took their money out the next day. And we used to pay in 5 minutes back then. Everyone got paid back then. Yeah. 2006. It was fine. That's the way it was. But it's not good for business, when you lose half your customer base overnight because of a stupid headline.
Yeah, you guys were on 60 Minutes. I mean, 60 Minutes. I heard like the next day you were flooded with new customers after being on 60 Minutes.
60 Minutes was great. I was home in San Francisco. I was pending appeal, and my lawyer Ben Brothman got calls. The 60 Minutes piece was so positive that Ben. What happened was I had lost my trial, and Ben. I got a call from Hayden. He said 60 Minutes calls. They want to do a story about us. I had always wanted to do 60 Minutes. I said, this is great.
It's the biggest news program of the time, without a doubt.
Yeah, 10 million people. I called Ben. I said, Ben, 60 Minutes called. They want to do a story. And from the time I got charged up until then, I had been like media lockout. Because Ben said, don't talk to the press. So he said, don't do it. It's going to be a hack job. I said, Ben, the media lockout's over. I'm doing it. And he said, okay, then I want to be on too.
Oh, wow. So then he wound up doing it with you.
Yeah. Wow. So we both did it. And we shot the B-roll and we actually shot the interviews, both he and I, the day of my sentencing. I was in New York and we do the sentencing. And then we went to the CBS studios. We met with Morley Safer, both Ben and I, and did the interviews. And anyway, it didn't air for a long time, and Ben was nervous, and I didn't care anymore. And the producer kept assuring us that we were going to love it. And sure enough, when it came out, it was fantastic. We looked great. The government looked like idiots.
That's right. I remember that.
And Ben, I talked to Ben the next day. I said, "Hey, how'd you like it?" And he said, "I'm getting calls from criminal defense lawyers around the country saying, who do you know at 60 Minutes to get a positive story on someone already convicted?"
Unbelievable. Thinking about that in that aspect.
That's how good it was. And that's how clean we were. We weren't. We were, we were straight up guys. We weren't shady or anything.
Am I right by saying that got you a lot of business the next day? Am I right by saying
I
that?
wasn't there, but they tell me the phones were ringing off the hook. They
Ringing
said.
off the hook. Ringing off the hook. Yeah.
One time before I got in trouble, I was back in San Francisco long, when we were still new, long before the problems. And I went to San Francisco for a few days, and we had a press agent, we had a PR kit, and I did a thing on, I think it was on CNBC. It was some NBC related channel. I know that because I went to some NBC studio in San Francisco. And that's when I did this debate against the Attorney General of Wisconsin, a guy who later turned out, he became governor after that. His name was Doyle. And I buried the guy. And I felt like I did very well. Anyway, and that's when we were just a 4-person company. So when I left the interview, and this was long before we were in trouble, I was walking down Van Ness Avenue. I had my suit on still. And I picked up a payphone. I called the office to see if they saw it. And they just said, can't talk, phone's ringing off the hook. And apparently they had put our 800 number or something on the screen.
Yes.
So
you're gonna be off the hook.
That was, all media was good media back then.
One of the viewers said to me when I asked for questions, ask him what the largest single wager ever was that you ever booked, and the largest winner, largest loser. Did you have real sharp guys in there? There's a couple questions in one there.
Those are questions for Hayden and Steve.
I got you.
I know they had some very big squares. I know.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a sad note. You said questions for Hayden and Steve. Steve's no longer with us. That had to really affect you the day that he committed suicide, I'm sure.
Yeah, I can say in the book, for Steve, it was like the correct move. He was so analytical and so, if this, then this, if this, then this, and if this, then I'm going to kill myself.
Oh.
That was him. He didn't believe in God. He just like that was how he saw the world.
So he did that like when you guys folded, like almost the same day, even.
Yeah,
right?
like the day the company folded, it says no more, and then they found him the next morning or something. That was it.
Wow. Did he have a family? Did he have wife, kids, family?
He was a serial engager, and he was married at the time. When we went down there, he had a wife and 4 kids. 2 were kind of adopted, and 2 were his own. And they left eventually, and he split up with her. And then he got engaged a couple of times. And he was married to this woman. I know he was married to a woman when he passed away, but she wasn't there anymore. Right? She was back in the U.S. And
yeah, that's a shame.
I can't tell you what happened there. I mean, he was so funny with his engagements. He was always he would call me up and say, "Do you want to buy an engagement ring cheap?" He says whenever I break up with them, I let them keep the disposable camera and the ring. And these are very expensive rings. If you'd like a good deal on one, she'd like out.
Right. Oh my God. David Allison from Twitter says, can you ask Jay for me, are the prediction markets here to stay even after 2028 if there's a new party at the top? So if we have a new president, do you think they're here forever?
I think they'll figure out a way to keep them going. There's too much money involved in them. And Kalshi, I always say that, we were just trying to run a business. A lot of these companies, they're experts in rounds of financing, And
sure.
Kalshi,
that's true.
Kalshi's whole claim to fame is that they're approved by the CFTC. And then you look at their board of directors, and they have a former CFTC guy on their board.
Oh wow!
Yeah. I never thought like that. I just want to run my business in peace. I wasn't looking for favors. I wasn't looking for connections. I just, we're going to do what we do and try to do it well. And I'll tell you something. I just want to say this about Do It Well, because I was dealing with some other company the other day, and I sent them an email. It might have been Apple. I get an email. We'll get back to you in 72 hours. 72 hours. I had a rule. I said,
Right.
I don't ever want to hear. I said, every email gets answered in an hour or less, and not with just some canned response. If you can't, if you can't answer, you got to work on something. That's fine. But we don't treat I said, we treat customers well.
Sure.
We treated people well. I paid people to sit there to make sure they can answer the emails in an hour. That was, to me, that's customer service. Today, vice president of customer service is rewarded by how little he spends on customer service.
I mean, you could call one of these casinos here down the street here, and you can call, and you're calling out of the country, and you think you're calling Caesar's Palace. I mean, the call, it's amazing what a difference in customer service is today to even 10 years ago, and of course when you guys were doing it. It really is.
We treated our customers with respect, and the other funny thing was, like, I would put I would put banner ads up everywhere, and some site, maybe we get 2 customers from. I would say, well, you never know. Maybe this guy's got a friend who's going to send 10,000. You don't know.
Sure.
You don't know where A leads to B. So I would carpet back then. I was able to we had no analytics. We had none of that stuff. But I would just carpet every gaming site, every remote sports that would take our banners. I'd say, how much you want? 50 a month, 100 a month? Okay, good.
Sure.
Whatever it was, we would just spread it out.
Danny Dimes from Twitter. Hey Jay, do you think the existence of prediction markets will make the traditional books eventually have to lower their juice from the standard 110 to maybe 105 or closer to 105?
I don't know. Are the prediction markets? See, the prediction markets, as I understand it, are mostly peer to peer.
They are.
So they, yes, there were books that took less than 110, but they were, basically, as far as I knew, they were kind of running a betting business and
they're booking the action,
using the books to make their bets.
Right.
There's a famous bettor. Obviously, who he is, and he used to say, what's the problem? I mean, they're getting 110 to 100, and I just want to make a bet, and they don't want to take my bet. He wants to bet 100,000, right? And my answer to that would be, we put up 300 lines a day.
Right.
If you want to bet 100,000 on all 300, I'm happy to take your action. But you just want to sit there and cherry pick. You want to cherry pick the one that's out of line. That's the difference in the business. So is 110 too high or too expensive for the risk they need to cover? I don't know. I've been around in a while.
Sure.
But
how about this?
It wasn't. I can tell you this. It wasn't a high margin business, even with 110 to 100. It wasn't like a high margin business. And on the live betting, it was actually even the margins were even lower than the regular betting.
So last week, Bet Bash was in town, and I got to talk to Billy Walters again, face to face. We had a nice little conversation, and I've known him for 25 more, maybe 28 years, something like that. So you want to tell everyone you have any Billy Walters stories? I think you do.
Me?
Yeah.
No, I really
Nothing?
don't.
Okay.
Because he came, I was gone already.
Okay. I thought you had one, something about Miller time. Is that something else?
Oh no, that was a guy.
Okay.
I'll tell you that story.
Okay.
That guy was very early in when we started, and he was our whale. I mean, and he would bet, and if he'd lose, he'd send more money. He'd bet the second half. If he'd win, he'd double up. I mean, he would just bet and bet and bet and bet and bet. And he was wild. And he'd send, and his deposits kept getting bigger and bigger.
But like 100,000, $500,000, like
no, after I left. So right before I left, right before we got in trouble,
all right,
I got an email from him saying, I've come into a lot of money. I'd like to step up my bets. Can I trust you guys? And he had finally won something. He said, I know you sent me 30,000 recently, but I just want to make sure I can trust you with this kind of money.
Sure.
And I said, well, you want to send six figures like that, you should probably send a bank wire. And I also he was indifferent to price. And our system would move the thing on before we had a chance to move it back. He would bet, -3, -3.5, -4, -4.5, -5 until he drained whatever account he had. He was indifferent to price. It was insane. He would run the thing up before we even had a chance to offer him. And his last name was Miller. So when he would start betting, Steve, and the machine would start dinging, and Steve
Miller
would go,
time.
It's Miller time.
Wow.
And anyway, it turns out, so then he sends these bank wires. This is after I left. This is when I had first gone back, and he was betting like crazy on baseball, and he I guess the bank retracted one wire and canceled another. These are six-figure wires, and
Sure.
And they said there was fraud involved. And so Steve calls the guy's number, and his mother answers, and she says, "Oh, he's a very sick boy. He was working at the bank. He was like a teller.
Oh my God.
And originally he was just kind of stealing from the till to send to all the Western Unions. And then he somehow advanced to figuring out how to send the actual bank wire."
Wow. Wow. I didn't know this. I got more serious here. Oh, Jesus.
And then he went to his mother said he went to some kind of gambling rehab. And Steve never missed. He was always the funniest guy in the world. Never missed a beat. And I was already home, because I had come back. I'm in charge.
Sure.
I'm sitting on my thumb on my butt. And I talked to Steve. He said, "Jay, why don't you go check into the same gambling rehab center as Miller? Sit down next to him."
Yeah. Learn. He's a bank teller. Wow.
Yeah.
What an ending to a story that is.
And he is working in some kind of, it wasn't even like a big name bank. It was
It's like a mom and pop bank or whatever.
some small SNL or something. Yeah. So that was him. And we had another one years later. Again, I was in prison when I heard this story. I'm sitting in the visiting yard, and one of our lawyers comes and he tells me this story. He said this guy, he was betting crazy on mainly blackjack, and he was down hundreds of thousands of dollars in blackjack. And he was always flirting with the operators. "Oh, I'm going to come pick you up on my jet," and this and that. Yeah, he's always very, very friendly. And it turns out he worked. Not only did he work for a giant consulting company, he worked for a consulting company that specialized in how to help companies prevent, do fraud prevention and loss. Okay.
Wow.
And so one of our lawyers sees me in the prison visiting room, and he said, "You're not going to believe this." He said, the FBI called Antigua. They want records on this guy's deposits and what he did with it. And I said, "Well," and the FBI doesn't know that down the hall they sent the guy to prison for the same place, And I said, "Well, this is what I would tell them." I said, "I would tell them in honoring our license and whatever, tell them if the FBI comes to an Antiguan court and asks for this, and the Antiguan court orders this guy, we won't contest it. We'll cooperate, but you can't just send them stuff because they knock on the door and say, give us this guy's details. It's got to go through the legal process." And as far as I know, it got dropped. It never went any further. But I don't want to name the
no, of course.
I won't name the consulting company. But the way the guy did it was, he sent the money and he made his username like that of the consulting company. So let's call it Acme.
Sure.
So, and in the wire orders, he would say, under the description, he would say for Acme LLC, which was actually like his gaming username.
Sure.
So the company thought the wires were going to something for the Acme company.
Right. Wow. Let me reframe that Billy Walters question. What did Steve learn from Billy Walters?
Well, I think he learned that I think, again, I wasn't there when most of that was going on, but I think Steve thought he could. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Steve met his match there. I mean, I think Steve thought he could, he could bet his plays, but then I think Billy double crossed him. Billy figured out what he was doing, and then,
okay,
he started sending in the fakes to Steve. Steve would bet big somewhere else, and then
I gotcha.
He's hold on a second.
Sure.
On the phone, thank you.
Well, we're getting ready to wrap up. We're getting ready to wrap up.
Anyway. So yeah, I mean, I think that's what's. I think Steve at first Steve thought it was great that he was getting the inside line,
right?
And then
Billy
didn't appreciate it when he was getting used and gave him. I mean, Billy's been doing
the opposite.
Sure. Yeah. So
yeah. So Jay, I want to ask you. So what's life like now? What do you do every day? Are you actively working, or were you looking for a job? Is that what I read?
Yes.
You read?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was working for a while in finance. I had a local job and a remote job. I gave up the local job, and then they had layoffs where I had the remote job. So now I'm kind of just floating in the ether. It's not. I have a wife and child here, and it's not. It's not easy. It's not easy because where I am doesn't pay a lot, even if I find something in English. And it's always, I've applied to a lot of jobs in English-speaking countries, and I honestly think that my biggest hurdle is when they see I need a visa. Like they might say, "Hell, we got 100 guys applied. These 10 are good. This guy needs a visa. What do we do?" So that's and plus I'm old, and who wants an old guy, right?
Yeah.
But I am well credentialed. I've picked up several financial credentials. I haven't wasted any time. People say, "Why do you get all these credentials at your age?" Is it to make myself more marketable?
Sure.
But, it doesn't. Well, it did help for a while with that one remote job. The situation just changed there.
Yeah. There's a Simpsons line that I know you love. Maybe there's no moral to the story. It's just a bunch of stuff that happened.
Yeah.
After everything, is that how you see your own story?
Yeah, I mean, quite often, yeah. I mean, it's just. I mean, like you asked me earlier, what would I do? Would I not do it? No, I would not do it because I didn't want that feeling. Do I wish I fought the case a little differently? Yeah, I kind of wish it, something more Perry Mason-like stood up and yelled in court, but would that have worked? I don't know with that crazy judge.
Right. Yeah.
Looking back, I was, I spent almost 4 years on bail. Had I just sat in MDC, I would have been done.
Sure.
Things like that.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you being so transparent, answering all the questions, and I'm sure we're going to have a niche for this content, and we really appreciate you having you on WiseKracks, and look forward to seeing you again. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you for having me, and I do remember that dinner at the Palm. I wish we could have it again.
Yeah. Oh, I told you, Jonathan Lerner said this today. He said, "Ask Jay Cohen if he remembers he didn't have enough money to pay the dinner bill." I didn't even remember that. So I guess that all these people showed up from the major wager site, and I think it was like 60 people, whatever it was. The bill was like $7,000. You had
Dude,
five.
I paid it. I paid it at the
You
time.
did pay it.
I had it. I don't worry.
Yeah.
I did what I need to do, but
You remember everything, yeah. And I said, "Well, that's funny." But yeah, no, it was a great get together, and we were all rooting for you. I'm still rooting for you now, of course, and I'm sure
thank you.
people are. Appreciate having you on. Thank you very. Appreciate you coming on with us. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Krackman.